Welcome to South Carolina Live, episode 36 at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Walker Gaskins, and we have an absolute jam-packed show tonight. We've got player exits, our first big-time commitment from the portal, plenty of buzz on transfer portal targets, recruiting trail updates from the past week, looking at our offensive line situation, I think is the word I want to use for now, and why our returning linebacker trio is a game changer for this defense. So we're going to be looking at a lot of how this is going to affect this team and this program heading into 2026. But before we get into it, I ask that you please like the video, please share, and please subscribe. It only helps me. It only helps the channel, and you get to see more Gamecock football content. However, I also want you to please follow me on X, WG_Sports_CFB. All that transfer portal news, I'm putting it out, daily, hourly, and oftentimes by the minute as it comes out. So if you want all things covered for South Carolina football, subscribe to the channel here, share it with your friends, and follow me on X. But without further ado, first I just want to go over the list of people who have left South Carolina from the portal. I'm just kind of going to list them and get them out of the way. But there are three I want to talk about. I saved them for last. You have Michael Smith, offensive lineman Nick Sharp, defensive lineman Xavier Hardy, wide receiver Amazon Littlejohn, linebacker Jerron Willis, kicker Peyton Argent, offensive line Mac Walters, offensive lineman Trevon Bowe. I'd say one of the Gamecock favorites who just committed to Texas A&M probably 30 minutes ago. Wide receiver Brian Rowe Jr., offensive tackle Kason Henry, backup QB Aaron Noland, offensive lineman Tree Babalade, linebacker Chase Sean Alston, defensive tackle Chase Kibble, defensive back Miles Norwood, offensive lineman Rodney Newsom Jr., offensive lineman Campbell Vandever, and then the three I kind of want to talk about. So sorry, that's really going to be the only time I'm really going to be listing things. I just wanted to go ahead and get that out the way. First guy, entered the transfer portal December 31st, right before the new year, offensive lineman Boaz Stanley. Redshirt junior, spent 1 year with the Gamecocks, and he transferred to Columbia from Troy. And unfortunately, I don't think he really panned out like what a lot of Gamecock fans hoped for him to here. You expected, I think, a lot considering just kind of the energy he brought and kind of the experience he had. He started 9 games for the Gamecocks in 2025, but he played in all 12, primarily at center. And then this one, I think, certainly hurt Gamecock fans the most, especially Gamecocks Tomorrow. If you follow that account, you know they're heartbroken. Vandrevius Jacobs. I personally was at a loss whenever this happened. I'm going to miss him. I think he was one of my favorite players on this offense last year and in the time he's been in Columbia. In 2025, he recorded 32 catches, 548 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And actually, before his 2 seasons in Columbia, he spent 1 season at Florida State. So I think that's a significant loss for the Gamecocks. I know there's plenty of young guys, and we just got a wide receiver in the portal who we'll be talking about later. But he was one of our more experienced guys in that room who really took a step up in 2025. You look at 2024, he had like 400 less yards. I don't think he had any touchdowns that year. Take a really big step up in a year where we were very offensively challenged. So I'm certainly going to miss him, but I do wish him nothing but the best. And then January 3rd, so 2 days ago, offensive lineman, specifically left tackle Josiah Thompson, entered the transfer portal, announced it via Instagram. I covered it on X. This one also was pretty tough. I know he was a freshman All-American in 2024, firstly. He started 12 games in 2025 at left tackle. And what disappointed about me is we're about to get into the offensive line situation very, very soon. But it really disappointed me because I know we needed a revamp for that room. But I think he was probably the most talented guy we had on there with the most potential and the most upside. I know Teasley brought him into the program. I know Teasley leaving probably was a big impact. The new guy coming in with a different style of offense they're going to be playing. I know that's all had to be considered. And he's certainly one of the more talented guys. I think he's going to be well sought after in the portal. But it's just disappointing to lose a guy like that who really was the backbone for this offensive line, especially last year, but also a little bit in 2024 as well. So it's certainly been tough somewhat. We've lost some guys we're going to miss. There's some other guys that we wish them the best of luck. We wish all of them the best of luck, of course. But we're certainly starting to get into the trenches of the transfer portal window. as of January 5th. And with 11 more days to go, we need to get the guys we need to get before the next phase of the offseason begins. The next 2 weeks are going to be probably make or break for this South Carolina team heading into 2026. And speaking of the trenches, I want to pose a question. Is it time to panic, to click that panic button, start freaking out in regards to the South Carolina offensive line? That's a question I've seen posed on X. It's a question I've seen on Instagram. It's a question that some buddies of mine have asked me about. Is it time to hit that panic button in regards to the South Carolina offensive line room? No doubt. I'm just stating the obvious here. There's been a mass exodus from the O-line group at South Carolina. 8 scholarship offensive linemen have announced that they're leaving through the portal. I just listed them. I don't have to go through the names again. But the thing about this is with Josiah Thompson leaving, every single starter and many depth pieces are now gone. Now you're probably thinking, well, Walker, this is a line that struggled heavily in pass protection and run blocking in 2025. I mean, Randy Clements, he needs to bring in some proven veterans to protect Sellers and jumpstart this run game. And I agree. Last season was very poor. We ranked 132nd out of all teams in the FBS. It was 134, by the way, in sacks allowed. I think it was 43. It's 43. Only ahead of Ball State and Troy. For an SEC caliber team, the flagship university of their state, with all the resources that the University of South Carolina has, that's unacceptable. With the most athletically gifted and talented quarterback you have in the country, Illinois Sellers, who's the closest thing to Cam Newton when it comes to his physical ability and his rushing ability and his scrambling, you got to protect him. He cannot be Superman the entire game. And I think we saw what happens when you try to put too much on somebody's back last season. So the overhaul for the offensive line room was absolutely needed. I would tell you that 100%, absolutely. With the performance they had last season, and really, if we're really thinking about it in totality, Shane Beamer's entire tenure in Columbia, the offensive line has really been the weak point. Now, obviously, every season there's multiple things you can kind of contribute, but really, if we had to pick one position group that's really define the success at times of this program, I'd say it was the offensive line. Even when they played just a little bit better than at the very bottom, that's when we saw seasons like 2022. That's when we saw seasons like 2024. And then, of course, whenever they're pretty much bottom of the barrel, you see seasons like this, 4-8. You see 2023, 5-7. Spencer Rattler gets sacked 9 times in the first game against North Carolina. This offensive line needs a total revamp. Just need an absolute total revamp, and it's really needed for a Gamecock team and program that has hit their low under Shane Beamer. Their worst record, 4-8, that they've had under Shane Beamer's tenure at South Carolina. Now, despite everything I just said, everything I said about a revamp, everything I said about just clean house, I didn't expect this much of an exodus. I really didn't. Now, we all knew changes were coming to that position group. You bring in a new offensive line coach. You bring in an entire new offensive system. Poor offensive line performance in 2025. Deductive reasoning will tell you things are going to be changed. Players are going to move out. But I don't think, and I really, if people did, I want to know, because I'll give you props. Did you really predict for the entire offensive line, the entire starting offensive line to be gone with a snap of your fingers? I certainly didn't. I knew there were going to be changes. I very well expected it. I very well expected to lose a lot of our starters, but our entire offensive line and a lot of key depth pieces, I think that's set the panic alert for many fans, especially on social media. A lot of people, a lot of accounts over here panicking. And you combine that with a lot of frustration from people in the Gamecock community about the quietness of South Carolina in the portal. South Carolina so far, day 4, which, there's still 11 or 12 days left, but, you see a lot of other schools doing a lot in these past couple of days. So there are people frustrated. Now, there is one question I wanted to pose that I've heard online and kind of make my answer to. And that's first thing is, how can South Carolina not get all these guys in the portal? How can we not get this success when teams like Texas Tech and teams like Indiana can? I've seen that question posed a lot. Instagram, X, social media, whenever I go talk to people. So I'm going to answer that question. And my answer to that question is, it's a really stupid question. It really is. It's improperly phrased, and all it's posing is that what happened to Texas Tech and Indiana can just happen anywhere. Now, as much as I would love for South Carolina to jump very quickly to that, we have to admit these are completely rare situations. So the question in of itself just sets false expectations. Firstly, regarding Texas Tech, South Carolina is not the bottom of the barrel when it comes to NIL. Now, we're not tier one like LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Miami. Of course not. Like Ohio State, like Michigan, of course. But we can hold our own. We can punch at our weight class. But if you don't realize the amount of NIL support that Texas Tech has, you have to have been living under a rock for the past couple of years. I mean, they just gave the former Cincinnati quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, a $5 million deal. I mean, that's nuts. It's not like they just went all in on him. You see the amount of deals they're giving to other guys in the portal and other guys that they're bringing in the recruiting class. I mean, everybody freaked out about Deion Sanders bringing in all these guys from Colorado when he brought in 65 players. I'm pretty sure Texas Tech broke that record last year. They literally plucked so many people from across the country, across the portal, brought them in, and you saw the success they had. Now, I'm not going to say – obviously, the coaching staff in Lubbock is very good, very talented. They're definitely good recruiters, but there's a lot of oil money in Lubbock. There's a lot of oil money in Texas in general. That's not me saying that they're just bad they're just throwing money at them, which, I mean, they are. But you have to admit it's a different situation. I don't see oil wells on Gervais Street in downtown Columbia. I don't see oil pockets in Spartanburg, South Carolina, right? It's just a completely different situation with Texas Tech. And then in regards to Indiana, I really like what Curt Cignetti is doing there. I really like the whole Cinderella turned, this is how we're going to be from now on, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I've been rooting for them as the season has been progressed. They kind of grew on me after that Penn State win and seeing Fernando Mendoza's post-game speech when it sounded like his voice cracking every 2 seconds. They've grown on me. And I admire what Cignetti has done, but should not be the common expectation in football. I mean, it's lightning in a bottle that Indiana and Coach Cignetti have caught. Now, I've seen a lot of fan bases, including people in the South Carolina fan base, raising their expectations due to this happening to a program like the Hoosiers, which have historically been one of the worst, if not the worst, football programs in history. But the sad truth and the sad reality for the Gamecock community and other communities is that something like this doesn't happen often. It's very rare, and Indiana happened to get it. And props to them. They're doing well. They're taking advantage of it. You've seen it in the portal. You've seen it in recruiting. You've seen it in the way they coach and their culture that Coach Cignetti has set there. But that's not something that should be the common expectation across the country. So I just want to answer that question by basically criticizing the question in of itself. I think it's a poor question. I think it's an unrealistic question with an unrealistic answer that people want when they ask that. But just went on kind of a little bit of a rant about Texas Tech and Indiana in the transfer portal in that kind of regards. But what about the Gamecocks and transfer portal? Who have the Gamecocks been targeting with the offensive line? Now, there's been tons of reports from multiple levels of credibility on guys who've been coming to visit South Carolina. I've done my best to stick with the known guys, Chris Hummer, Matt Zenitz, guys at the Big Spur, Gamecock Central. If you want up-to-date news, please follow me on X, WGSports_CFB. That's where you get reliable and constant Gamecock football news. But there are a few guys I wanted to talk about briefly, made a few bullets about each one. Firstly, you have the UCF center, Carter Miller. He was visiting South Carolina, I believe, today. I think I heard January 4th and 5th, and on campus per multiple sources. This guy definitely brings some good size, 6'2", 300 pounds. And not only does he bring good size, but he brings a lot of experience and productive experience. I mean, over 1,992 snaps, he's only allowed 2 sacks. No matter where you are, I don't care if you're FCS, I don't care if you're Division II, that is impressive. And currently he's ranked as the 18th best interior offensive lineman in the portal by 24/7 Sports. As of right now, unless something's changed since I started this episode, he's not committed yet. Next guy that the Gamecocks were going after was a guy named Austin Kawecki, interior offensive lineman, center, guard, Oklahoma State guy. He was scheduled to visit South Carolina, but he did commit to Wisconsin, I think, before that visit happened. 6'4", 300 pounds. Started 10 games at center and 1 at right guard in 2025 for the Cowboys. And this guy was, honestly, I was really looking forward to getting a chance to have this guy come to Columbia. 873 career snaps, versatile interior option guy you can kind of plug in at a few places in case, injuries happen or something goes wrong or you need to just make a switch. But he committed to Wisconsin. So that's Kawecki. But a guy who's not committed is Bryant Williams, offensive tackle from Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. Now, from what I've read, he's a strong target. And the Gamecocks have a great opportunity. Now, there also is news that he went on a visit to Florida State, and he had a very, very nice visit there. Now, that if you go read the article from, I think it's 24/7, Knowles 24/7, it says basically unless the Gamecocks blow it out the water, he's going to commit to FSU. Now, this guy started 11 games in 2025, 69.4 PFF grade over 719 snaps, and he always wanted to plan on one more visit, and the Gamecocks are lucky enough to have that. And knowing Shane Beamer and co., knowing the great recruiters and Jessica Jackson and the entire program we have, I think they're going to give their best shot at this guy. And I think we still have a very good and strong opportunity to get this guy from Louisiana. And then speaking of Louisiana as a state, maybe not that team, Louisiana State, LSU transfer, DJ Chester, all right, offensive line. Now, he was also reported to reported to visit South Carolina, also other schools, Baylor, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State. And he should be visiting soon from what I've heard. I think the next 48 hours. I'm not an insider. I'm never going to claim that. I don't claim to be an insider. I report what verified other news sites and people report who have the credentials, Gamecock Central, On3, 24/7 Sports. So that, and just from what I've heard, I think it's going to be soon. And this guy, he's had more than a season worth of starts, 14 career starts, primarily at center and left tackle, brings a little bit of that versatility that we might need in case of injuries and all that. Cause the Gamecocks are not really lucky when it comes to, getting injured in the trenches. Unfortunately, we tend to have a lot of guys get hurt throughout the season. And one thing I thought that was interesting about this guy is the Gamecocks offered him out of high school in 2022. So you bring a guy who you've talked to him before, Beamer's, he knows Beamer and kind of the program they have. And this guy's an experienced Power 4 starter who knows what it's like playing in the SEC. So I think that's going to be one of your top targets and a guy who you really need to go as far in as you can get, even if you need to go a little bit beyond what you would normally desire to pay in NIL and commitments such as that. And then going back to a little bit of more negative news, Brendan Black. Now, this was kind of the first guy that was reported to come visit South Carolina. And this guy honestly was probably, besides Chester, I'd say my favorite guy who I could bring into the program. 3-year starter for Iowa State, primarily a right guard. And he was going to visit South Carolina tomorrow through the 7th, so the 6th and the 7th. But unfortunately, Nebraska was able to snag him before he even got a chance to visit here. It was our former offensive line coach, Lonnie Teasley, who was able to recruit him to Nebraska. So that's nice. No comment more on that. And then you also have another LSU guy named Paul Mubinga. I really hope I pronounced that right. When I go over kind of my notes and everything, I try to practice. So Paul Mubinga, I did my best. Let me know if I messed it up there. Now, this guy brings great size to the offensive line. 6'5", 317 pounds, redshirt sophomore, 20 games played and 11 starts at LSU. So he has great size. He has experience in the SEC, mostly at guard and tackle, which looking at the other guys, if we happen to get some centers and stuff, we kind of need to shift towards kind of those tackle positions. So once again, kind of like the other guys I've mentioned who could still come to Carolina, versatile experience on the interior and a little bit of the exterior of the line. knows how to play in the SEC and the Power 4 level. And from what I've heard, he's going to visit South Carolina very soon. I don't know if it's today. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's the day after on Wednesday. But from what I've heard, it's going to be very soon. Now, I've kind of given a rundown of who South Carolina is targeting to my knowledge from the transfer portal. I've kind of talked about that dumb question, if you ask me, the improperly phrased with unrealistic expectations question that a lot of people have been asking on social media and around the Gamecock community. But I should probably get around to actually answering the original question I posed. Is it time to hit the panic button in Columbia, South Carolina? And the answer is no. I really don't think so. I believe the people that are worried, that are stressed out, they just need to take a deep breath. And I say this for a couple of reasons. I'll admit I've had my moments where I was like, well, shoot, what are we doing? But when I looked back at it, when I really thought about it, it's okay. I think we just need to take a deep breath and we need to trust the process, in short. That's the short answer. The kind of longer answer is I have a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think it's all known even with all the inciting sources, that inciting reports that happen and everything that goes on, there's still a lot of visits and stuff that goes on that people don't hear about. I mean, that's kind of the program's job and all the people who work inside that program to keep it under wraps, of course, because you see other schools will see that they're bringing in that guy and they'll try to scoop in and take him, right? Especially if it's from another strong school. But have no doubt that there are guys that have probably visited Columbia, will visit Columbia that we probably haven't heard about and we might not hear about. We might just hear, hey, this person's committed. Turns out they visited 2 days ago. Who knew? So that's what I try to remember in situations like this. But also really kind of just trying to take a vibe check here. I'm getting kind of the exact same vibe as when we were looking for our current offensive coaching staff. Now, recollection, just kind of little trip down memory lane to about a month or two ago. Beamer wasn't moving quick enough to many people. He fired Shula midseason, fired Lonnie Teasley midseason, and despite that, we were one of the last teams to really get the staff they wanted from the coaching carousel. You had Will Stein at Kentucky bringing in guys. You had Auburn bringing in guys, Florida bringing in their coaching staff, all before Carolina, despite the head start that Beamer and co had in Columbia. Now, a lot of this was just too slow for a lot of the Gamecock community. And these same people who saw the other schools start to round up who they would like, they think Beamer needs to wake up and play catch up. I've seen Beamer needs to wake up probably a million times already on X today. But then Beamer came out with some fantastic hires. Kendall Briles, offensive coordinator. Randy Clements, offensive line coach. Stan Drayton, running backs coach. He's able to flip a surprise Sterling Lucas loss to a, if you ask me, upgrade in Deion Barnes as the edge and outside linebackers coach. I mean, Beamer, despite all the doubts that people had about the speed of what he's doing things at, he took his time. He did the things the right way. And now I'd say our staff, especially on the offensive side, has a much higher ceiling than before. I think that's a fact we can all agree on. And I think we need to, as Gamecock fans, need to treat this in the same manner. I mean, let Beamer and co. work through the portal. I think I just saw a stat, there's over 4,000 players in the portal. Now, I want to say this, 4,000 players in the portal, and through our best wins and through our worst losses, what is one thing that all Gamecock fans can agree on about Shane Beamer? It is that he is an amazing recruiter and a guy who can really sell this program. He's a player's coach. The players love him. He can recruit his butt off. So let Beamer and his staff recruit. I'm not saying that you can't be mad at the end of the day if things don't work out. I'm saying I think you need to give him time. I think we all need to take a deep breath. Remember who Shane Beamer is. He's a great recruiter. So is the rest of his staff that he's brought on. Look at who Stan Drayton has recruited. Look at who Kendall Briles has recruited. Look at the great recruiting staff we have in Columbia. I think we just need to give them time. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not promising anything. I'm not promising that we're about to go get the best portal class in the country. The next couple weeks could be meltdown central for South Carolina fans. We could miss on guys and we end up having bare-handed offensive line group heading into 2026. But at the same time, there's also a very good chance in the next couple of weeks we'll be spending a lot of time analyzing and evaluating and getting to know a lot of good guys that Beamer's bringing in. Now, if I had to bet on it, I'm betting on the Shane train. Okay, I think that the guys they bring in, maybe they're not the same type of build or style or kind of players that we got under Teasley. Maybe that's a good thing. We have a new offensive line coach. You saw what happened when we had Teasley as our offensive line coach. You saw now we have a different offensive system. It's going to be more quick. It's going to be a spread offense. We need some guys who can play like that. From what I've read and from what I've kind of heard whenever in conversations and stuff, it sounds like that might have also played a factor in why these guys were leaving. The guys like Case and Henry, just basically the guys in Columbia. So I'd say to Gamecock fans, don't hit the panic button yet. Just take a chill pill, take a deep breath. I would trust Beamer and co right now. Of course, I think you have every right to hold him accountable if we end up whiffing on this portal class, but I really don't think Beamer has done that before, and I have no reason right now. I know it's a hard sell at times for a 4-8 program where everybody sees Beamer on the hot seat in 2026 being the year, completely new offensive staff that these guys might have to get to know, but I think we need to trust Beamer. We need to trust his staff. We need to trust that entire program. They are some of the best recruiters in the country. They have always punched over their weight class in terms of what other people, other national media, other fan bases have expected out of us. All right, we didn't expect to get Nick Harbor, to get Dylan Stewart, to get Rocket Sanders, to get all these talented guys, but we got them. And so I think we just need to take a deep breath and really just trust. These next 10 to 11 to 12 days are going to be very pivotal for this upcoming 2026 campaign. And I think we just need to ride it out, see what happens, and then form our thoughts afterwards. Whew. Take a drink of water for a second. That was a lot. Now, I just spent quite some time talking about the portal for the offensive line. But here's some other guys that the Gamecocks have targeted in other position groups. So I know I just had to dedicate a segment, but I want to go through some other positions. Firstly, Horace Lockett, in case you haven't heard, a defensive lineman at UCF. There's reported he was going to be planned to visit South Carolina, but he withdrew from the portal today, so he is going to be returning to UCF. Definitely would have been a great guy to bring in. I'm disappointed we were not. Wow. We were not able to get him in. And then you have a guy that Nate Palmer, running back from TCU, reportedly visited January 3rd and 4th. And his stats don't pop out by any means. Not really. I mean, I think he had like 200 rushing yards total in his career in the past 2 years. But this is a guy that Kendall Briles is familiar with. And I don't think we're going to ask him to be running back one either. This is a guy that Kendall Briles knows, who can kind of contribute, kind of already has a step up, and who can kind of be a depth piece for this running back room. Because honestly, I think Fuller can be running back one. I think he'll probably be running back one. I think Jerron Howe, he has a great shot at being running back one too. Now, I think right now, if I had to say someone, I might prefer Fuller, but I wouldn't mind if Howe was a good running back and they both take a step up during the offseason. I think right now we need to more focus on the depth in this running back room, not trying to get a star guy. Now, this guy, I'm about to show a video, but just go over him. Randy Pittman, Florida State transfer. He's a tight end. He's reported upcoming visit on January 6th, so that is tomorrow. Not committed to any school as of now. Now, I haven't had time to truly kind of make my thoughts about this guy, but he certainly reminds me of a Jaheim Bell type of guy. South Carolina fans, especially if you're watching, you know who I'm talking about. Jaheim Bell, before he transferred to Florida State, was one of those guys who was just always fun to watch for the Gamecocks. So I'm going to pull up Randy Pittman's highlights here. Just bear with me for a moment. So it's just going to be a blank screen for like 3 more seconds.
Yale graduate. They throw into the flat. They do complete it for Randy Pittman.
First play really stuck out to me. just, I mean, maybe I think a lot of people would have just missed it, but immediately, shoot, I'm just going to let it play.
Yale
Immediately got a guy in your face, right? That's the quarterback. Looks like Lenore Sellers a lot of the time this season, but you got a guy in the flat who's a bailout option, who's gets underneath this defense.
They throw into the flat.
They
do complete it. And Randy Pittman.
Jefferson off play action.
He's also a good route runner. He's also a good route runner. And then you look back at this play. One thing I noticed, if you go watch this video, I'll show the link to it and give credit once I zoom out or X out of the full screen. But one thing I see a lot on this highlight tape is the amount of screens that he does well on. I mean, here's
Jefferson setting up the little bubble, and it's Randy Pittman running in space. Got it complete to Pittman.
But also, just look at that. So we've seen he can get the flat. He can do well on screens, but the play you just saw, I mean, immediately came back.
Running in space, spins.
I mean, clearly you've got one guy who's charging towards you. You got two other guys who are about to come for you. I mean, this is a situation that honestly looks like Lenore Sellers for half of 2025 season. But what does Randy Pittman do? He becomes a bailout option.
Got it complete to Pittman.
With a little tempo. And risk over the middle. He's got a man open. It's Pittman to Tyson.
Skating through.
Once again, kind of a bailout option for the quarterback for UCF here. Now, just to give credit, if you want to go watch, it's about 1 minute, 15 seconds. Prospect Productions, 1,100 subscribers. So if you want to go watch the tape yourself. But one thing I noticed about this guy was a guy who can get underneath the defense, a guy who works well on screens, and especially he's a good bailout option. Now you may be asking, why is that important? Now, you look at the 2024 offense whenever we went 9-4 that year, and look at games like Texas A&M or sometimes Missouri, especially as the season kind of progressed. Joshua Simon, former Gamecock tight end that season, starting tight end in 2024, he was a bailout option for Lenore Sellers for a lot of plays where our receivers weren't open, where they hadn't finished their routes yet, and Lenore's was already about to get sacked. Simon always found a way to kind of be that guy, basically be the safety net for Lenore Sellers. And I think Randy Pittman, he looks like that safety net. He kind of looks like that safety net in Josh Simon for the teams he's played for. And I think he can actually be that here as well at South Carolina. Now, another guy is wide receiver Joshua Manning. So Joshua Manning, he's from Missouri. He's kind of he's all right. He doesn't pop off on the box score and the stats per se, but he definitely is I think an interesting guy with his build, and I think can be kind of a versatile guy. He was reported to visit South Carolina, hasn't committed anywhere yet. From what I've heard, I've heard some rumors today and some buzz that there's going to be a commitment tonight. Maybe it's him. I don't know. But I certainly wouldn't hurt at the fact of getting Joshua Manning. I think he's a guy who can definitely add depth and maybe a little bit of versatility to this wide receiver room. Now, this entire time I've been talking about guys who are visiting, who haven't committed or have committed somewhere else. But I think it's time we talk about our first and as of now only commit to South Carolina, and that is Oklahoma transfer wide receiver Jaden Gibson. It was reported he was visiting. You saw him post it on his social medias, and he committed to South Carolina today, January 5th. Or sorry, no, not today. I think it was yesterday. Now, there is a video that I want to show, and I want you to just look at this guy's like 6'5" or 6'6", about 195 pounds, brings some great size, and he can be a real vertical threat opposite of Harbor. So if we're able to really fully develop Gibson, I mean, I'm about to show some of his highlights here. This is going to be a guy that really can make the defense have to pick their poison between him and Nick Harbor. So Gamecock fans, you probably heard of General Will before. He was able to find this video from kind of his highlights. If we're going to be looking at it, this was the 2023 season, keep in mind. This was almost basically 3 years ago.
Gabriel, pocket collapsing. Gabriel caught. Slipping tackles. Gibson. Touchdown.
Against Florida State. We aim to change that this year. Back shoulder.
Now, obviously, that first play against Iowa State was really impressive, but just when I'm saying this is a guy's a vertical threat, I mean, you look at his yards per catch, it's above 20, and for good reason. I mean, defenders playing it well, his eyes are on the ball, he puts his hand up, and also, I mean, great placement by the quarterback, but just what a catch. Ability to snag it and hold on to that as your back hits the end zone. So I'm going to play that one more time.
Against Florida State. We aim to change that this year. Back shoulder toss.
And then again, later this game.
Off the cam.
I mean, just absolutely insane if you look at it. Defender plays it well, eyes on it, hands up. It's obviously in the air for a little bit, but his hands, he's able to get it off the helmet and keep his feet in just enough, just in time to get that ball. So I'm just going to play it one more time.
Tempo. Back corner. Off the cam. Touchdown.
Here's another highlight. Contested catch. I mean, a lot of receivers by their hands. A lot of wide receivers. But that right there, I think that was really impressive. And I think that did a very good job of highlighting the deep threat that this can be opposite of Nick Harbor. You have a guy who can make contested catches like that, who can be another bailout deep ball option for Lenora Sellers and really make this defense pick their poison. I think that's going to be a good thing for the Gamecock offense in 2026. But I think the early question we have right now is in 2023, he had 2024, a season-ending knee injury. Really tough, missed the entire season. And then 2025, he separates from the team. I believe part of it was because he re-aggravated an injury. I think injuries have been the concern for him for the past 2 seasons. So the question is, we've seen what Jaden Gibson can be. I think the main question is, which Jaden Gibson are we going to get over the offseason and during the 2026 season? I think this guy has some very good upside, some very good potential. There's a lot to like about this guy, not just in his build, but just the way he's able to go up and catch that ball. And just I think he's very underrated all around, and I think he has a chance to be very good. I think it's just a matter of, can he live up to what I think Gamecock fans might expect out of him, especially if he does well during the offseason. Now, we've been talking about the portal. We've been talking about guys coming in, guys leaving. Now I kind of want to shift to guys who are staying at the program. I just want to take a moment to celebrate some linebacker loyalty that we've had. Over the past week, especially in the past 2 days, all 3 of our leading linebackers have all announced the return for the 2026 season. In case you don't remember their names, Justin Okoronkwo, Sean Murphy, and Fred J.R. Johnson. Now, what's the significance, you may ask? Well, of course, firstly, you bring back your entire linebacker production from last year. I mean, Sean Murphy, 49 tackles, 1 pass deflection. Okoronkwo, 63 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 1 interception. Fred Johnson, I'd say, had the best season out of them all. 67 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 1 sack, and 1 interception. Now, to some people, they might expect more interceptions, more plays out of these guys, but these are all considerably good stats, especially when you look at the fact that this was all their first year truly being the starters and the anchors for their position group in this Gamecock defense led by Clayton White. Now, one thing that also stuck out to me this entire year, just despite everything that happened, was how after 2024, a lot of people expected a huge step down from the 2024 crew. I mean, Debo Williams, Demetrius Knight, Bam Martin-Scott, some absolute ballers who all went pro after the 24 season. I mean, that fire ant defense was wild. And the linebackers, some of the greatest moments. Demetrius Knight picked it off against Clemson. Bam Martin-Scott, every time he blitzed, it just felt amazing to watch. Debo Williams stopping that 4th and 1 against Texas A&M, just making huge hits across the field. I mean, a lot of people expected linebacker to actually kind of be a weakness heading into this season. And I think a lot of people, especially me, in a good way, surprised about how they held their own. Of course, they had their faults. Of course, there's plenty of misplays and missed opportunities, and tackling was quite the issue this past year, not just for them, but this entire defense as a whole. But there was a lot of good, and certainly a lot to build upon for the 2026 campaign. But I kind of just shaped it into why it's good for the linebacker crew, but it's also good for this entire defense. Let's just think about this real quick. Your starting defensive tackle's gone. You lose one of the most experienced edge rushers on the team, Brian Thomas Jr., to the NFL draft, and you lose multiple guys in the secondary, DQ Smith, Brandon Sissy, Jalen Kilgore. And this linebacker room, is really the only room for the Gamecock defense with true continuity after the 25 season. I know the edge room's bringing back Dylan Stewart and some guys, but this room is the only room on that defense who's bringing back all three of their top starters. And I think that's very significant. I think that's very important. And I think these guys, don't be surprised if these guys take a step up in their abilities and I think their leadership heading into 2026. So props to Sean Murphy, Fred Jarrett Johnson, Justin Okoronkwo for your loyalty to this Gamecock program. I was certainly excited to see all of them come back, especially excited when I realized all three were coming back. And I think there's a lot of good things we're going to see out of them in the future in Columbia. Now, kind of to pivot to basically our last segment of the episode is Gamecock Recruiting Trail. Now, once again, if you want recruiting updates, if you want constant news, follow me on X, WGSports_CFB. That's daily, hourly, and oftentimes by the minute updates for South Carolina football. So please subscribe and like the video, subscribe to the channel here. All it does here is help us and give you college football content. But when it comes to the Gamecock recruiting trail, there has been some things that have happened. People are starting to say that we might get a commitment tonight. I have no idea on the validity of that. Hopefully, I'll certainly make a post on X if it does. But some stuff has been happening as of late. Two main things I want to talk about. Firstly, we signed Amari Fountain, a 3-star cornerback out of Warner Robins, Georgia. And he's our second player to commit to the 2027 class. We've already had another DB commit, so it's good to get another defensive back when you look at some of our guys who are starting to get older. So it's definitely to bring some guys in under Torian Gray and this defensive back room to really get some experience. And I've looked a little bit at these guys. I've looked them up. I've looked at see what they can do, and I think they both have some very good potential if they can develop at the college level. And then also want to talk about a guy named Jaden Bryant. If you haven't heard, he was kind of one of the big names that was going to be announcing his commitment. He announced it January 3rd, near the end of the Under Armour All-American high school game. So Jaden Bryant's 5-star edge, number one edge in the country in the class of 2027 by many people's metrics, committed to LSU. He picked LSU over teams like South Carolina, Clemson, Miami, Georgia, Alabama. But South Carolina obviously had that advantage of being his home school, being the school just miles from where he plays high school ball. Now, I'll tell you, I've seen this guy in person countless times. Very strong. He's quick. He can bulldoze right through a defensive line, right through those tackles, and blow up a play very easily. He's actually sneakily fast too. You know, with how strong he is and how much power he has, it can kind of catch you off guard if you're not careful about how fast he is. But I've also seen some versatility as well. He's been a ball carrier on the offense as well. He's made quite a few goal line runs, 4th and 1 plays when they needed it for the Irmo Yellow Jackets. That's where he goes to school, Irmo High School. So definitely a very talented guy. One of my favorite prospects for the next class. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's going to do great things at the college level and at the pro level. Now, of course, he committed to LSU. He said that Sterling Lucas going to LSU was a big factor in his decision to go to Baton Rouge. But I wouldn't be 100% just zoned out on Jaden Bryant. This is a local homegrown talent right outside Columbia. I mean, literally just right outside the border of Columbia. It goes into Irmo. And there's still 11 months until 2027 National Signing Day. And honestly, if I had to guess, educated guess, it wouldn't surprise me if this becomes a similar situation to how Julian Walker flipped to South Carolina from Michigan this past cycle. So no doubt Julian Walker and, of course, the other schools going after him are certainly going to keep pursuing him. You got 11 months until they put pen to paper. But I know certainly that Jaden Bryant is going to be near the top of the list for that South Carolina defense. Now, we just had a jam-packed show. It's been great talking to y'all. I've seen we've actually had some more viewers than average today. So for the 9 people I see watching, thank you. You viewing and just coming here, paying attention. It matters a lot to me. It matters to a lot to the Voice of College Football Network. But this was South Carolina Live, episode 36 at the Voice of College Football. Once again, I'll ask you, just like the video, share it to a friend who you know loves Gamecock football content, and please subscribe. It gives you more Gamecock football content. It only helps me grow the channel and grow my personal account. And speaking of my personal account, follow me on X, WGSports_CFB. I know these shows are weekly, and they often provide a lot of content, but if you want up-to-date, relevant information, that's where I post it, by the hour, by the day, and oftentimes by the minute. So especially with the transfer portal window happening right now, I advise that you'd stay tuned to YouTube, follow me on X, and lock in, because this is about to be a hectic portal season for South Carolina. I think it's going to be a very defining couple weeks for the Gamecock football program. With that being said, thank you for watching South Carolina episode 36 at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Walker Gaskins. Go Gamecocks and Happy New Year.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.